All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, students. I believe you can hear the sound of my voice. Can you hear my audio? All right. You're all welcome to today's lecture. Today happens to be the first day we are starting this lecture on Nigerian foreign policy. So I want to welcome all of you to this wonderful session. Okay, and I also want to bring to your notice that we just have 3 days for this lecture. All right, this lecture will, which we started today, is going to run tomorrow the same time, and is going to also run next tomorrow, and that will be the final day for this particular lecture. And after that, the exam follows immediately. So I implore all of you to be serious and committed so that we all achieve the cause and the purpose of this very lecture, all right? Once again, this course is titled Nigerian Foreign Policy, IRD 402. My name is Mr. Marankurafo, and I'm your lecturer. So without wasting time, let's delve into action. Okay, I believe you all can see my screen because I'm sharing the material on the screen. It's on the screen. We have the course title, and then we are kickstarting with the concept of foreign policy. That's what we're starting from. That's where we're starting from in this course. That's the first topic we're looking at, and then gradually we'll delve into other topics as regards to discuss. All right. So, first of all, I believe all of you, as students of international relations, you are conversant with the word policy. All right, from your year 1 down to the final year, the level which you are, and I believe you've gained some knowledge on policy, either domestic policy, foreign policy, whichever you name it. All right, so let's first of all consider the word policy. All right, as we know, policy is an action plan. All right. When you have something to achieve, when you set an objective, when you set expectations and goal, you must also have mission. You must work out strategy. You must consciously put them down. This is what I want to do to achieve those goals. And why do you have to put it down? Because as humans, emotions can, get in the way. So you need something to always condition your action. All right, because the goal and objective is very important for you to achieve, and therefore you now have something that will always look something that you always look at, something that you always reference to, in order to guide you, in order to discipline you, because achieving that goal is very, very important, and that is what policy, okay, represents. All right, so here we are talking about foreign policy. We have different types of policy, but in this course, in this lecture, our focus is on foreign policy. All right, and then the foreign policy will be revolving on Nigerian situation, and also we can also delve into discussing other foreign policy of other nations, that have ties or kind of international cross relations with Nigeria. But we're starting from the background. So what is foreign policy? On the screen, we see that foreign policy is the mechanism national governments adopt in guiding their diplomatic interactions and relationships with other countries. All right, let me repeat again. Foreign policy is the mechanism national governments adopt in guiding their diplomatic interaction and relationships with other countries. A state's foreign policy reflects its values and goals and helps drive its political and economic aims in the global arena. So as we can see now, remember what I told you, foreign policy is like a guide. Okay, so here we're looking at foreign policy, okay, as something that guides a nation, because every state that has achieved independence, every sovereign state has a role, has expectation also in the field of international relations, because every state is a primary actor in the field of international relations. And for you to succeed as a state in international relations, you must not be an island. You must relate with other countries. And every state has an expectation, all right, in this relationship of countries coming together. All right, so for them to achieve those goals, those aims, it can be political goals, all right? It can be economic goals. It can be any type of goal. It can be educational goal. It can be in different facets, all right? For them to achieve all these goals, they must develop a foreign policy. They must develop a plan of action. They must develop something that will guide them, something that will guide their step in relating with other countries of the world. And remember, the major aim is to achieve a national goal, all right? So that policy, that's a plan of action, that determinant of action, which is policy, will now help these countries as they relate with other countries of the world. All right, so let's proceed on the screen. Foreign policy is the mechanism national government use to guide their diplomatic interactions and relationships with other countries. Right, so according to this guy, according to Rodi in his words, this is what he said concerning foreign policy. So Rodi in his words saw foreign policy as something that involves formulation and implementation of a group of principles which shape the behavioral pattern of a state while negotiating with other states to protect or further its viral cause. All right. So remember what I told you. Policy is a guide, something that guides your action. Because if you don't have something guiding you, or in this case as a nation, if they don't have a program, a conscious, articulated course of action guiding them, they won't be able to attain their goals, because a lot of things will interplay, all right? So if they don't have a guide, something that will condition them to achieve their expectation in international relations, their goal will be defeated, all right? So Rodi, tells us that foreign policy involves the formulation and implementation of a group of principles. Okay, these principles are the foreign policy, which shape the behavior pattern of a state while negotiating with other states to protect or further its vital interests. And then we have another definition here too. This one is by Rodelsky. Okay, let's see how he defined foreign policy. He analyzed foreign policy as the system of activities involved by communities for changing the behavior of other states and for adjusting their own activities to the international environment. So these are different views on the meaning of foreign policy. But the most important thing I want you to take away from this explanation is that a group of principles. If you don't say it's principles, they are course of actions, all right, that will help a nation achieve goals in the international relations, all right, either to their interest or to further a mutual interest between that nation and other nations which they are dealing with in the international sphere and space. Right. So let's proceed. We go to the next one. So we've been able to look at the meaning of foreign policy. Okay, so these factors are very, very key and important. And as a matter of fact, they influence foreign policy. Right, so let's look at this one. Number one, the country's circumstances in number of areas, including geographical, financial, political, and so on. All right, so a country's geographical position has a lot to do with the design of its foreign policy, right? In terms of the continent or the region where they are situated. For example, Nigeria decided to make Africa a centerpiece of her policy. Why? Because Nigeria is situated in Africa. And that is why Nigeria said, okay, let me consider Africa as #1 priority, right, in our foreign policy. So geographical position is one of the influencing factors when formulating foreign policy. And also financial and political factors can also play a role. Then another one is the behavior and foreign policies of other countries, right? So remember, the international arena is like a football pitch, okay? And then you have different players. These players are called state actors. State actors are sovereign nations that have achieved independence, all right? So they are all players in the international field, in the international pitch, okay? And each of the players will develop their strategy in the relationship based on the strategy of other players. All right. For example, Nigeria foreign policy, at which is going to relate with America, will be determined based on American policy towards Nigeria. All right. So if American policy is anti-Nigeria, in return, Nigeria will also develop an anti-policy in dealing with America. Are you getting it? So the behavior and foreign policies of other countries is a determinant. Another good example is Russia and US. They both have an anti-policy, right? Because Russia is a socialist nation, and their policies are socialist oriented and anti-American. And because of that, America now take a different position in dealing with Russia. I hope you get that point. All right. So another one is the state of international order and affairs. More widely, example is there are wars or unrest. All right. So the state of international order or situation can decide how a country will form its policy. All right. If there is a region that is engulfed in conflict and unrest, the countries in that region will also develop a certain policy to contend with the crisis situation. For example, look at the Middle East currently, what is happening. Okay, Israel and Palestine. Now look at the surrounding nations, the policy they have developed in dealing with Israel and Palestinian crisis. Maybe in the past, those policies were not there, but because there is a cost to generate a matching policy to deal with that situation, these nations now carved out a kind of policy to deal with the crisis situation. Right. Another one is plans for advancement, such as economic advancement or technological advancement. So this can influence the kind of policy a country will actually adopt. Okay, so let's proceed on the lecture because of time. I believe you can see my screen. All right. Okay. And I believe you can also hear me, because I want everybody to be part of this lecture. I want everybody to follow up with this lecture. I wouldn't want anybody to not to be active in this lecture. All right, so I'm trying to go through and see if all of you can actually hear me. All right, so let's proceed. Okay, so let's look at this topic: components of foreign policy. Okay, what are those key things that are important in foreign policy? What are those elements that are so sacrosanct, that are very important, that you cannot do without when dealing with foreign policy as a nation? All right, so according to Lechi and Said, okay, they give us three key elements here as components of foreign policy. Okay, so number one is formulation of objective in the most precise terms possible. Remember what I said when I started this lecture. Objectives begat policy. A policy does not fall from the sky. There must be something to be achieved. There must be an aim, a goal in focus. And then that goal will now give birth to strategies, plan, and principles through which you can achieve the goals. All right. So policy formulation must have objective. Before a nation, before a government or institution who run affairs of the nation goes into foreign policy, they must have objectives set. All right, they must have clear cut expectations and goals. All right, it can be economic goals that will lead to development of a nation, goals that will lead to political affiliations to foster international relations. It can be trade relations. It can be any kind of goal. The country will have to put it down. But this is what we want to achieve. Okay, so it's a key component. And then, according to this guy too, Lechi, he said the nature of the action to be taken, stated with sufficient clarity to guide and direct the states and other officials. All right, so the nature of the action. All right, now we have a goal. Let's assume I am a nation and I want to go into foreign relations, and I want to have policies that will guide me so that I can have benefits when I relate with America. Okay, I have set my goals, number one. And then the policy, what kind of policy am I looking at? That's what number 2 is saying, the nature of the action to be undertaken. All right, what kind of policy am I going to design before I conduct diplomacy with the US? Then the third one, the forms and perhaps the amount of national power to be applied in pursuing of the objectives. All right, so these are, according to this guy, the components of foreign policy. And also Mahendra Kumar, in his view, also asserted 4 components of foreign policy. They are there on the screen. I believe you can all view it. Number 1 is policy makers. Yeah, a policy cannot happen without policy makers. And who are these policy makers? That's the institution of government. Okay, primarily the executives. Right? So if you elect a national, if you elect a president into office, definitely that president or whosoever that sits on the helm of affairs will take charge of this responsibility together with other government institutions. And they are doing that on behalf of the state. And then we have interests and objectives. Okay, it's part of the components according to Mahendra. We have principles of foreign policy and means of foreign policy. So according to Mahendra, these are his components of foreign policy. Let's proceed to the next concept of foreign policy. We have objectives of foreign policy, right? So what are the objectives? Before you go into, before you explore foreign policy as a nation, remember what I said, you must set objectives. And then those objectives will now help to design foreign policy. Now, in this policy that we have adopted to achieve this goal, what are the objectives of foreign policy? Remember, this is not the domestic policy. This is foreign policy across the border of the nation, across the shores of nations. All right. So, what are the basic objectives? Number 1 is maintaining the integrity of the state. Every nation, be it Nigeria, be it US, they want to they want to boost their level of integrity in the international relations, in the international community. All right. So that's what, and they can achieve this through foreign policy, how they relate with other countries of the world. And most of the times, these policies can be achieved through political policies. Those political policies will now engender better diplomacy. All right. Remember, in Nigeria here, we all know how we labeled in other countries. All right. And then I believe our governments, they are making efforts to change the narrative. All right. By engaging in foreign diplomacy. So we have a policy where we want to engage other nations, to have a better perception about who we are, right? And then another one is promoting economic interest. No nation will survive if they are not strong economically, right? If they are they have deficit in trade, they have debts, and all of that, that nation will definitely suffer and will not do well in international relations. So every nation wants to boost her economy. Every nation wants to boost, and in doing that, economic-related policies in different areas of the economy, right? So as to achieve this aim. In Nigeria, we have a lot of foreign policies on export and importations, right? Because we're dealing with other nations, and then we want a policy that will favor us, and at the same time, that will also be a mutual benefit to other countries. So the government will now sit down and design a perfect policy that will be a match in achieving these economic dreams. And then we also have another foreign policy objective, which is providing for national security. Every nation have this in view. National security is of great importance to every nation. And how would they go about this? Okay, apart from trying to beef up domestic security, internal security, they also want to prevent any kind of external aggression. Right? So the nation will now have to design policies that will help achieve a better national security. All right, both physical security, both economic security, both cyber security, and every form of security. All right. As we know, in Nigeria, we always look out to getting support from the US, from Russia, and from some of these traditional world powers, to supply us arms in order to contend with stuff like insurgency, terrorism, banditry, and all of that. Okay, so it's one of every nation wants to beef up their national security, and in doing that, they will develop a policy that will help them achieve this. It might not just be getting arms from this nation, advanced nation. It can also be achieved through better diplomacy and relations with this country. If Nigeria have a better diplomacy, a positive diplomacy and relationship with US, all right, US can be a defense whenever anything that threatens the country comes into play. US will stand and defend Nigeria, all right? Even US today also have this objective in their foreign policy. And that is why they project friendliness to allied nations. Yes, because any threat that comes to US is not only US that will start to contend it. The allied nations will also come and support the US. And then the next one is protecting national prestige and developing power. This is another objective, maintaining world order. So all these are objectives of foreign policy. All right, so the time is against us. Let me just rush this very part of the lecture so that we'll call it a day. The nature of foreign policy. Foreign policy has many constituents, the most important of which are defense, diplomatic and economic interests. Okay, so every foreign policy will have these constituents, will have all these things I mentioned embedded into it. Number two is that foreign policy is made in the name of the state, but the government formulates and executes it. Okay, remember what I said when I started this lecture. The state, that is the nation, what we call nation, the country. Nigeria is a state, Ghana is a state, US is a state, right? So the state is the primary actor. I believe I'm talking to level 4 students of international relations. You must have been blended with knowledge, primary knowledge of international relations. So you know about primary actors. You know about two actors in international relations. We have the state actor, which is countries in the international arena, and we have non-state actors, all right, who are non-governmental organizations, who are also in the international field. Okay, so here we are talking about state actors. And according to the number 2 nature, foreign policy is made not in the name of non-state actors, but is made in the name of state actor. For example, if Nigeria is designing a foreign policy, that foreign policy is done in the name of Nigeria. And the implementation across the shores of this country will be in the name of Nigeria, irrespective of the diplomat or whoever, you know, who handles this foreign policy. It will be in the name of the state. All right. And then thirdly, foreign policy never operates in a vacuum. Rather, it is conditional by an environment, both domestic and external. The domestic environment consists of political parties, pressure groups, rival bureaucratic organizations, public opinion, political culture, etc. And then the external environment comprises of big actors, neighboring states, and others belonging to region, superpowers, and all of that. So what we are saying is this: foreign policy does not operate in a vacuum. Foreign policy has an environment. All right? It has an environment. Either we are receiving a foreign policy domestically, you know, through international relations from other countries, or we are sending our foreign policy through diplomacy externally. Right? So it must operate in a space. It must operate in an environment. There is no vacuum when we're dealing with foreign policy. Foreign policy must have a landing space, a landing ground where it operates. All right. So domestically, as you can see, the domestic environment consists of political parties. For example, in Nigeria, we have the PDP, the APC, and the rest of them. You know, these are components of Nigerian polity, Nigerian environment, Nigerian political environment. Pressure groups, rival bureaucratic organizations. Okay, these people, they are also determinants of foreign policy. Yes, because it's not only the government who generates foreign policy. That foreign policy must be fine-tuned. Okay, it might be it might generate from public opinion, and then the government will now look at it and then design a policy based on what the people are saying. It can come from rival political parties, from pressure groups, from workers' union, from anywhere. Right? So policy, foreign policy does not operate in vacuum. It must have an environment. And then the external environment, as you can see, you know, is across the shores of a nation. Now we are looking at the international political system and its variables. Okay, we're talking about other neighboring nations. For example, Nigeria has bordering nations. Nigeria is situated in West Africa, and then all the members of ECOWAS and all those from the East Africa and all the rest of them, they surround Nigeria. Okay, so this is the external environment. Outside Africa, we have the EU, we have other sub-regional organizations. So this is the external environment, and this environment either gives or receives foreign policy coming from the nation. Right, so we call it a day here. I will stop. Then tomorrow we'll continue from instruments of foreign policy. Right. So do have a wonderful day. God bless you.